All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll call the meeting of the Buchanan City Council to order. It's 7 o'clock, and I'm so happy to see everyone here. Another full room. That is really a great service to the community for being here, and I know my city council members enjoy having a full room as well. What we'll do is start off with a moment of silent prayer and meditation, and then a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Okay. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I see a couple of, I believe, Wesleyan student faces. It's a tradition with the City Council that we have our Wesleyan students introduce themselves. Tell us where you're from, what your major is, and if you would, do it to the camera, please.
Hi, I'm Paulina Nottingham. I'm from Champaign, Illinois. My major is marketing and PR.
I'm Philip Stadelman. I live here in Buchanan now, and my major is marketing, minor communication.
Do I have any other Wesleyan students with us tonight? Well, thank you two for being here. It's always good to have the Wesleyan students with us. Maybe you'll learn a little bit about our local government, and welcome to Buchanan.
Can I ask Miss
Go ahead, Dave.
Is Gary your father?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's why you're from Champaign.
All right.
He's a basketball coach at Wesleyan.
Oh, I see. Recognized guest, we have Mr. Hall who would like to speak. Mr. Hall, you have the floor, sir.
My name is Raymond Hall. I live over on North Buchanan. I have a complaint about North Buchanan Park. My wife used to go over there, and we used to have our family reunions over there all the time at the Pavilion. And soccer moms and soccer dads started taking over the pavilions, and I told them one day that I had it rented, and they didn't move, or they just stayed there. So I called Comm Center to have an officer come over, and the Comm Center told me that it was first come, first serve. So no officer comes, so I really don't care, but I do care because we have our family reunions now in Clarksburg. So it was a nice place to come. The little road that goes down in front of the pavilion should be marked off handicap because most of my wife's family is 70 and 80 years old, but there's nothing over there. And the soccer moms and dads, they take over, go in the gate in behind there, and they take the parking lot, so we have to take wheelchairs and bring them down to the gravel to get them to come to the pavilion. So that's something that I think needs to be taken care of.
Well, we certainly appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Let me ask you a question if you don't mind. Did you get a chance to call, now if you reserve the pavilion and somebody else used it, you didn't get the chance to use it, did you get back with the city on your reservation fee or anything?
I didn't get it back because that was on Saturday. I came in on Monday morning, talked to Mayor Davis about it, and he said he'd check into it.
Okay.
That's all I know. It's been 2 years now, and you know, I don't want the money back, but I think something should be done about it.
Okay, and the reason I bring that up is that if that were to happen to somebody else and in the public in general, we want to make sure they understand that first of all, if there is a reservation, and I know we put papers up within the pavilions showing who the reservation goes to. Now, sometimes those may be pulled off, knocked off, wind driven off. Sometimes circumstances like that happen, but not usually. In that case, I would also ask the citizens to keep in mind that somebody else has reserved those. And a lot of time, particularly this time of year and as we go into the summer, there are a lot of family reunions that go there. So we would hope that a little bit more consideration would go in effect from our neighbors as well. I'm sorry to hear that happen, and I'm sorry you're going away for your reunions. We would appreciate it if you give us an opportunity to make that better for you in the future. Council, do you have any questions? Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr.
Go ahead, Mayor.
May I ask a question for Mr. Arnold?
Please.
Jerry, is it possible, you know, we were talking about the pave it there by the one, two, three pavilions that are right there? Is it possible to make that for loading and offloading only, and to maybe put a couple of handicap parking spots right there?
If I may, I would
Is
like
there
to
room?
make a comment first, Mary, and then
Maybe it's already there.
then I want to defer your question. The comment I'd like to make is in dealing with the soccer at the park. One of the things is they come to Consolidated and ask for permission to use the fields yearly. So it's the kind of thing that now that this is in the front, that we can have those conversations with those folks and say, tell your parents that, you know, we have people that are reserving the pavilions, and please be respectful of that. As far as the road going into the pavilions, like I said, I'm going to defer to Jay, because Jay has worked on the upgrades to the park over there for ADA access. So I'm going to defer that over to Jay.
Thanks, Jerry.
And Jay, explain what ADA is.
Americans with Disabilities Act, requiring that all public spaces be able to be accessible by the people that have some disabilities. To answer your questions, each of the pavilions will have a minimum of 2 paved stalls with a parking island between them leading to the pavilions. And in the case of Pavilion 3, there will be a 4 to 5 foot wide path leading from those designated parking spots perpendicular across the road so that they may use the restrooms that are there. So those are going to be addressed when we start the North Buchanan Park upgrades, but we just haven't done that yet. The whole parking lot won't be paved, but there'll be the ADA parking spot will be paved, as well as the island between and the walk path over to the restrooms.
You don't do anything about that number 3 pavilion? You gonna concrete it or anything there?
Well, I mean, there's going to be 2 paved ADA spots.
I mean, inside where the tables are.
No, because you know, that's, you know, we were envisioning the 2, you know, being, you know, closer to the restrooms, already having the sidewalk there, you know, concentrating more on those being that. But I can't speak as to paving of the lot or the area underneath the roof. You know, it wouldn't be too difficult, but I don't think it's in this plan. I know that it's not in this plan.
Does that help, Mr. Hall? We are actually doing some upgrades.
I'd also like to thank Jerry Arnold for what he's did for me the other day, and Lieutenant Loudon. Lieutenant Loudon's not here.
We'll make a note of that. Thank you very much, sir.
I have one comment about calling the comm center and what they told Mr. Hall.
Yeah.
We should get with the comm center and instruct them that, look, it is not first come, first served, and the next time that anybody asks for an officer, that they should send them over there.
We should certainly do that, and I'll do that and make that point on Monday to pass that on as well. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Hall? Yes.
I got another comment.
Go ahead.
I think it's really important that people recognize when you have a space that is dedicated for individuals that have a physical impairment or disability, don't park in that space. People do it all the time, and I think we ought to, you know, have a police officer go over there occasionally, and if a person doesn't have the appropriate sticker, take care of it, tow them away.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I'd agree wholeheartedly with that.
Do you park here, Dave?
All right, does anybody else, I don't see anybody else signed up, but I always give the opportunity if anybody in the audience would like to speak at this point, they may. All right, then we'll move on to our department reports. We have Chief Tacey with the fire department first. Chief?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Before I forget, I want to wish everybody a happy and safe Easter. Just a couple things real quick. The radio system upgrade is moving along. Hopefully within the next week or 2 weeks, I think it's going to be online. We were told April 1st, but that's came and gone, so I think they're still working out some bugs. I think the call center is still trying to get some radios programmed. Last weekend we had 6 guys that went to Martinsburg for an extrication weekend. They had a fantastic time. It was money well spent. I just want to give you a heads up, sometime after the Strawberry Festival, we're going to be having some extrication training at the fire station. We're cutting up some cars, so if you see a bunch of junky, dilapidated car sitting in a fire station. They're going to be ours. We put an ad in the paper, and I'd like to get this out to the public, that anybody that has a vehicle that's sitting around that they'd like to get rid of, if you'd like to donate that to the fire department, we can use it. We can probably make arrangements about getting it moved, and maybe able to help you a little bit out, a little bit with a tax deduction for that also. We're getting geared up for our new ladder truck, and as luck would have, we're having a little bit of issues with our current ladder truck. We had this guy there today. It's got a little steering problem that we're working on, so hopefully we can get it resolved in the next couple of days without spending a fortune. It just so happens that it was the time of year that our ladder truck was due for its annual vehicular safety inspection, and this item was found, so we're going to be looking at that and correcting that. And speaking on the ladder truck, I have some more business, but I'm going to yield to Michael. He has a resolution, I think, that he needs to talk about a little bit to enable us to go on with our financing, just stuff. So, Michael.
Thank you, Chief. As you recall, at the last council meeting, council had charged myself with looking into financing options for the fire truck. I do want to first let you know that the city has paid the $35,000 down, which was the 8% down payment portion on the truck. We have solicited local banks to get interest rates and find basically the best deal. The interest rate, or the firm that we're looking at, and we had negotiated with, is Chase Bank, so it's a local bank. One of the aspects of the whole financing package as we close on this is that they need a resolution and declaration of official intent. That resolution came to our attention after we had created the agenda for this council meeting. But again, under the guise that council had authorized me to secure financing and negotiate, this resolution that you have in front of you is valid, even considering it's not on the agenda. So for your consideration, I want to talk a little bit more. I want you to consider Resolution 2015-6, and this has to do with the financing of the ladder truck for the Buchanan Fire Department and volunteers. I do want to note that the principal amount that we will be borrowing is $398,000. We secured, again, an interest rate with Chase Bank. The terms of the loan will be 10 years. Interest rate is 2.09%, which is an excellent rate. So principal 398, interest 2.09. It will be a 10-year term loan. So again, we need this portion of the financing to close on the truck and get the folks in Pennsylvania their payments so we can secure the truck. So again, in front of you, you do have Resolution 2015-06 for consideration and adoption and approval.
All right, council, I would entertain a motion then to accept Resolution 2015-06.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Mrs. Simons. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mrs. Kupari. Any discussion on that, council?
I would simply ask that all the banks have an opportunity to provide us with a...
That's correct. All the local banks and actually even BB&T even inquired about it as well.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
I'll yield back to Chief Tason.
Okay, I have one more thing. As you folks know, the fire department is and has been in the process of doing our promotional exams. Last week, you approved the promotion of James Kimball to the rank of captain. It's kind of historic in the fire service that you have a badge ceremony, so we're here tonight to do that. But I want to show you, just for a point of interest, I want to show you folks something. This stack of books here is what these guys study for their promotional exams, material out of each and every one of those books. Brian and Joey in the back are now in the process of studying for the promotional exam to lieutenant. So I just want you folks, I want to make the public aware that this is no small potatoes type thing. These guys really, really study. And as you can see, that one book there's about 11 or 1,200 pages. It's very, very time consuming. So these guys put a lot of effort into this. It's just not something that's, oh yeah, ha, ha, ha. They've worked very hard. They've studied very hard. And I'm very proud of them for the dedication that they've shown. A lot of what they did is stuff that that they set for themselves some of these standards and guidelines. They said, this is what we want to do. So that's how we're to the point we are today. Without further ado, JB, I'd like for you to come up. Come on, Jansen. For those of you that don't know, this is JB's daughter, Jansen. And she's going to pin for Daddy's captain badge. See if the chief can get it open, sweetheart, okay? You ready?
Pin goes straight in.
Yeah, all right. Make sure.
Chief, do you want to turn around? Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Megan, won't you and Hoyt come up here? This is his wife, Megan, and his son, Hoyt. And Jerry, would you come up here?
I think you all know my father.
It is? I didn't know that.
Well, I did.
I never knew that.
Don't let him breathe on it.
Great family. Did he say cheese?
We've got one more thing. Your captain.
Thanks, sir.
Your captain's badge would not be complete without your captain's bars.
Without what, Mitch?
His captain's bars.
Bars.
I'll have to get Jansen to come back to this.
Oh, it's different.
Silver and then gold.
While the chief's spoken on me here, I'd like to thank the city for this opportunity to advance. And I'd like to thank my family for putting up with me during my study process. And always remember there's no I in team, and there's my team. So.
Aww. Manuals or at least, and they're all expensive.
And you're just getting old.
In case you guys didn't hear that, he made another old joke about me. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
It looks good.
Thank you.
All right, in our packets we have here, you'll also notice the city of, the fire department. Mitch, Chief, did you want to talk about the bid for the old? We have it in the packet, Bob.
Yes, we put the old ladder truck out on the interweb and in the paper. There's been a legal advertisement placed. We're taking sealed bids, I believe, until April 30th. I've had one fire department from Kentucky that's inquired about it. They were led to it by the Sutphen Corporation. So we've had some inquiries. So we're at the mercy of the process until the 30th of April, and that the bids will do then. And of course, we have the right to reject any bid. So we'll just have to let the process play out and see where it goes. One other thing. Are we moving along with the fire fee? And the reason I want to, part of our plan has been to hire additional employees. And I know tonight you're going to set the date for the interviews, but kind of what I'd like to do, if we can get that moved along, instead of hiring one now to get us back up to 4 shifts. As you know, we're going to 3 shifts once we do the additional hiring. And if we do that, I'd just like to get everything in place so we can have all of our employees start after July the 1st when the new budget takes effect. It's kind of redundant to have one person start now and then 2 others. We don't have anybody on that list that can do like these guys do, who can work a shift by themselves, so it'll be kind of a mute point between now and July to pay them and then bring somebody else on board and have to jumble our shifts around. So it makes much more sense if we just wait till then. So that's kind of that's kind of where I'd like to go with this and have everybody in place so we can get them all hired after July, make our training much more efficient and more affordable that way.
All right, Chief.
That's all I got.
Well, let's go ahead and address the question that the chief has just brought up on our ordinance. We won't go through the whole, because we've had discussions on this before. What I'd like to do is defer to Mr. Doss, who is in charge of the ordinance for that. Ask him where he's at in his process and if he's got any anticipated dates that we should be looking at.
Last time that we presented a draft to you, we had done a revision based off of some concerns about the formula and how it was implemented kind of across the board, especially as you elevate from the 3rd tier to that 4th tier. And we went back, of course, and it kind of went back to the drawing board a little bit and revised that and brought some of those numbers down. Again, staying with the objective of increasing our revenues to not only cover the additional firefighters, but also cover any additional expenses and materials, the kind of general cost of doing business. So that's still the goal to hit that level. We ran into some things. We've got to understand that we're doing 2 drastically different things than what we're used to doing. The first, of course, is we're taking a rate that was established in revenue back in like 1983, and we're completely changing that. We're increasing that basically by those 1983 standards considerably. So that's one big change that I think was kind of a shock to the system for folks in town, specifically business owners. And the other thing is we were going from a gross receipts, which is the same thing that we do when we're calculating our B&O taxes. We're going from a gross receipts formula to a square footage formula. So actually, that's been the more complicated part of the 2. Because what we're running into internally is questions about landlords and renting. See, we base a lot of, especially our commercial, we base it off of those businesses, the income they're bringing in, and then we utilize their utility billing to bill them. That wouldn't be the case when we're talking square footage for a building. It'd be some cases where the square footage would go on the property owner themselves and not the individual businesses within that structure. So kind of a little bit reluctantly, but it does make sense that maybe sometimes the answer is always in front of your face. So one thing I think we need to talk about in a future council meeting, or maybe in a work session, since we haven't had a work session in a while, we maybe need to look at just keeping the formula that we're doing based off of gross income. Of course, square footage makes a lot more sense, but we've had that establishment based off of gross income for businesses for 30-some years, and it's proven and it's worked. If we go back to that formula, we kind of go back to where we started essentially, then we could revisit those numbers and make them more 2015 numbers as opposed to 1983 numbers. And one of the things certainly we'll look at changing is the gross income tops out, if you will, at $200,000. A lot of the larger businesses in town make over $200,000, so we would want to be adding more tiers on the upper end of those of that formula. So I'm kind of in the middle of that. I can make a great argument for square footage when it comes to firefighting and fire protection, but also a proven formula that we've had for 30-some years that's worked. Our office staff, it's in the computer system. We know how to bill. We know how to charge. We don't have much of an issue in collecting those fire fees. That may be the one thing I'm leaning towards, is again going back to the gross formula and just increasing those tiers and modify them to reflect, again, 2015 numbers as opposed to 1983. But again, whatever those numbers come out to, whatever formula we do, the goal is to increase our revenues, again, to cover the cost and expenses of 2 additional firefighters and cover the cost and expenses of apparatus, equipment and materials that they need. So we don't want to be short-sighted and just cover firefighters. We want to also be able to enhance our service and continue our service. So that's the goal. Whatever formula we end up working with will hopefully allow us to achieve those goals in that revenue collection. But again, that's kind of what I'm leaning to. Sometimes, again, that answer is right in front of your face, and it's an established formula, and maybe that's what we go with. So, I mean, to answer your question, I guess we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. We probably need to move on it one way or the other. So, if you guys want to talk about it a little bit, we can. If not, we can have a work session, or I can bring you something based off of gross income for commercial. And we can put it in front of you for discussion at the next council meeting.
If council doesn't mind, why don't we come up, because there's a couple other things we should be talking about as well when we're looking at the budget for any revision coming up in June. So can I suggest maybe we have a work session meeting towards the end of this month?
I think that'd be good.
Discuss this, give Michael the time to get the numbers ready. If we don't revise, or depending upon the new revision of how we're going to formula the fire fees.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I would like to make a comment.
Go ahead, please.
And I hope I don't sound frustrated when I talk, but JB at the last town hall meeting we had, he made a very astute observation to all of us that attended that town hall meeting, that the growth patterns for people that are constructing new homes and so forth is, Childers Run, Kiesling Mills, Stony Run, Brushy Fork, you can go on and on. And, our fire department responds to that along with the volunteer fire departments. But there's no plan at all in regard to the county to enhance the revenues from fire fees to support the services that are going outside the city limits. I think that's a discussion that we must have with the county commissioners.
Okay.
And it's something, we're supposed to have a meeting at the end of the month.
Yes.
I would prefer not to have a workshop on this until we have an opportunity to sit down with the county commissioners and say, hey, this is a joint problem. You've got the same issue. If there's a fire, how many fire departments respond to it from Upshur County? I know we do, and so do others, but this is an old system that's sort of broken, and it needs to be fixed.
Okay.
And we need to do it together, working with the county.
David, are you talking about the first due area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you got a brand new, across from Kroger's. That's outside the city limits.
Senior center going up.
Right?
Yeah, Pringle House.
And it's important that they have fire protection, but they're not going to pay a fee that's appropriate for the service that they're going to receive. And I think all the citizens need to be aware of it, not just here in Buchanan, but Upshur County too. It's something that we have to look at jointly. And we tend we're not dealing with it. That's what frustrates me.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's a point well taken. You know what, if you wouldn't mind, then council, if as opposed to doing it as a full council, a full commission meeting, why don't we see if we can arrange a meeting of the interested parties who's really interested in discussing this? I am, David, with you, and we set an appointment with JC or one of the commissioners, or two, however they want to do it, and hash this out as to how you understand it, how we understand it, as opposed to a full commission meeting, county commission meeting, you know what I mean? City, county, commission meeting.
Yeah, well, we need to do something.
Okay.
Because it's way overdue.
Let me see if I can arrange a meeting on that, because, and you bring up a point that other people are discussing as well, and this isn't the first time now that we do have to, and I think you're right, let's take this bull head on, and let's get the county and the city together and see what it is we need to do to make that happen. If there is anything we can do, I don't know. I do think this is a great chance for what some people would call a metro government. I call it cooperative government. Okay?
Mayor,
yes, sir.
I think that's a fantastic idea, but I think it's also delaying the inevitable. We need to fix our fire fee, and we need to move on, and we need to take baby steps. Delaying and having a meeting with those doesn't help our situation, doesn't speed our process up, and doesn't get these guys the help they desperately need.
I'm not saying we delay it.
I mean, I don't want to take, well, I'm not arguing, David. I just kind of hear, yeah, we're having second thoughts, we're pushing it back, let's delay. We're in a situation we can't delay. We need to, our system is broken and needs fixed, and we need to address ours and move on and keep moving forward with the county. I think you have a fantastic point, David. I'm not being argumentative, but I don't want to see this process get slowed down. I think we need to continue to fix what we've started to fix. Our end of this situation is broken too, and I think we need to get our own house in order first and foremost. These guys need help.
Sure, absolutely. And what I would suggest then is let's consider a date for our work session meeting. Michael can have a draft ordinance maybe prepared for us with some numbers on what it would look like if we just changed the formula to upgrade to current 2015 numbers. Okay, and then we can also see, because we already have an example of what the other numbers with square footage looks like, then we can have that discussion. In the meantime, I hope me and Dave can set up a meeting before then with the county commission to discuss the other parts that Dave is discussing as well. Is that all right with council? How about next week, everybody send in a date that will be good for the last week of April to have a meeting? Yeah, or unless you want to set one now, it's up to you.
We have a meeting with the county commission the 30th.
Yeah, the 30th.
I'd like to have it before our next council meeting.
Okay.
So
how does council feel about that?
Our next council meeting is on the 16th of April.
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to get together the 9th of April as a working session?
I'm available.
On a Thursday?
I think the sooner the better.
Okay.
Just the water board meeting is at 4 o'clock. Can we go at 5 o'clock and work that out?
You're on the water board?
Yeah, I don't want to make 2 or 3 trips.
I like that. Can we do 5 o'clock on the Thursday, the 9th? Is that the date?
The 9th, yeah, great.
That's fine with me.
That's fine. Thursday the 9th at 5 o'clock?
Yes.
Working session.
All right. Well, there you go.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And that's here.
That would be in here.
Yeah.
That would be, and that is open to the public as well. It's an open. All those are open. All right, everybody got that on your calendars then? Thank you very much, Chief. Was there anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Congratulations to you and JB and the rest of the crew that's been doing a great job over the weekend. We know there were some tragedies that had befallen some people. So, moving on from there, we have Jerry Arnold, our street department.
Good evening. I'm going to move kind of quickly through this. I've got about 3 meetings to touch base on, so if there's any questions, please stop me and ask questions. Waste collection met this evening, and again, missing John Hankel, but welcome Robert Osborne on Waste Board. We met this evening. Michael presented budget revisions and the president presented the budget for next year. Also, there was a memo from Dave McCauley on open governmental proceedings and executive sessions. A letter to the Upshur County Solid Waste Authority, and that was a request to get some old property that was actually titled to them, used by us, into our possession. We discussed the waste collection truck order, finalized that. Also, had a discussion on bulky goods and our procedures involved with bulky goods. That was tabled until next meeting if you have more information. Also had asked the board to be allowed to move forward with a small memorial on site for Mr. Hankel. We gave 35 years of service to the waste board, and we'll be coming back next month with some more information on that. Gave the transfer station recycling reports, and let's make sure, again, we just met, so I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Under my report, we completed the installation of the new compactor, and just want to report on the the cleanup events this month. Also thanks Jeff Craig with the Division of Natural Resources. He's been going out and touching base with folks that have past due accounts with us on waste collection, as well as checking folks to see if they have proper disposal of their waste. So he's been very helpful in working with us. For the Make It Shine activities this month, like I said, I just want to hit on this again. Crossroads, the celebration of recycling is April the 17th and the 18th. On the 17th, we'll be there from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the 18th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. On our cleanup activities at the transfer station, I don't really like the term free days, but that's kind of what it is. But anyhow, free days, it is just for our residential weekly waste collection customers. If you are paying a waste collection bill to the city of Buchanan each and every month, and there's a truck stopping in front of your house every week, and trust me, I need to clarify that, then you are eligible. You must present a current waste collection bill and a photo ID, though, on these collection days. For city residents, it is this Saturday is the first one, the 4th of April, and the 18th of April, and that's from 7:30 to 11:45. Are allowed 2 pickup truck loads for the entirety of the event. It does not include appliances with Freon or the CRT televisions, the old big tube televisions. And we do collect those though on our bulky goods. On the county, for the county residents on city service, those dates are April the 11th and the 25th, and again the time is 7:30 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. We won't be accepting tires during that event. Again, the tire amnesty date has been set, and that's something that's funded by West Virginia DEP, PPOD, actually puts that on. And that's set for Saturday, May the 30th from 8 until 2 p.m. at the transfer station. And there was a couple changes in the requirements this year. One is they actually upped the limit that they will accept to 15 tires per person with a valid West Virginia ID. And the tires can also be on rim this year. They used to be just off rim only. So they can be on rim, and they must be 16 inches or less. So it kind of takes away the big truck tires. But that is the events that we have coming up. And like I said, I'll just try to touch base on those as we go. So folks will take advantage of it and clean up their properties. That's all I have for waste board, unless there's questions on that meeting.
Any questions on the waste board? Mr. Go ahead.
Consolidated Public Works Board, I missed last council meeting because I had the zombie flu. But the one thing, most of the items in that meeting have already happened, or all of the requests. Mainly the big one was Pi Day, which was wonderful. But one of the things that I really needed to touch on in that meeting was the board appointed Brad Hawkins as the assistant street supervisor after the retirement of Lowell Smith. Lowell today was his official retirement date. He's actually been on vacation, but again, Lowell, long-time employee and will be missed. Met March the 26th and approved a request for the Strawberry 5K. And again, if I'm moving too fast, just stop me and ask questions. Approved a request for BUHS Senior Project 5K. Also approved a request for Alpha Gamma Delta 5K at the Riverwalk. Under correspondence, we had the Farmers Market Festival Friday hours at Jawbone and a letter from West Virginia DOH concerning the Canal Street light removal, which that letter was dated the March the 17th, and they said they would have that light removed in 90 days, so let's hope it holds true. Informed the board, I informed the board over some reservations I had in digging through things concerning the traffic lights and discovered some of the agreements that's out there with us being responsible for maintenance of those lights, and some of the problems I have with it is our employees aren't properly trained And with the new technologies, it just gets a bit more difficult every year. So board recommended that I get with Dave and maybe take a look at those agreements and see, you know, if maybe we need to do something different with these old agreements and moving forward with some of the new ones. As Jay had mentioned, there's going to be some new LED lights take place on the third lane project up at College. So again, it just gets more complex, and our employees aren't trained on that, but we are responsible for maintaining them. So something that just need to take a look at. Jay reported on the Route 20 lane widening, the traffic lights, and the upgrades. We discussed traffic delays during that time period. Jay also said that it looked like they may be doing the Brushy Fork project at the same time, so it's going to be a perfect storm when it comes to traffic. Also sent a letter to the property owner in regards to, if you remember, the Franklin Place. There was a request for a street sign. Sent a letter to that property owner with documentation that that is not a city right-of-way. It's actually a private drive. Michael gave the financial report. Expected expenditures to increase due to the work in parks and with the horticulturalist. Also, cemetery mowing bid opening. We received one bid once again this year, and it's from Sam's Lawn Care in the amount of $1,474, which makes the annual cemetery mowing contract $38,324 a year, and that bid was approved. Discussed plans for the upgrades to Lot 3. Approved the permit holders to park in other designated areas, and that will be from July 1 through August 31st. Again, if you're not familiar, we'll go in there and more or less totally destroy the lot and rebuild it with some additional green space and totally different parking design and upgraded lighting. The storm drain report, sewer department completed the 18-inch pipe and left one side of the box at Marion open for the DOH to use during the third lane project. And today the street poured the last of the concrete in that cut, and actually this morning patched part of the blacktop back before pouring the concrete on the other portion that was open. So we should have that street completed by next week. I reported that the Army National Guard will be sending a work detail to assist in cleaning off the sidewalks along Route 20, April the 11th. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up, and it's one of the things that's one of my pet peeves. And the mayor knows what I want to say before I say it. I observed a gentleman out on the sidewalk on crutches sweeping his sidewalk off on top of Canal Hill. I understand it's a busy time. I understand you pay city taxes, but those taxes can be a lot more if our services are more. That's just one of my pet peeves. Please sweep your sidewalk off. We have a city ordinance that requires that. Please do so to help us out. The Army Corps is going to come in or the Army National Guard is going to come in the 11th, like I said, with a detail, but that won't do everything in Buchanan. I talked to a lady just today who was just praising the street sweeper. She actually gets out in Hart Avenue and helps us sweep the streets with a broom. She says, I'm the crazy lady on Hart Avenue that sweeps the street with a broom. Again, you know, just that little bit of sidewalk in front of your home. If you sweep that off, if everyone does that, you save so much time for the guys in our crew. So I would greatly appreciate if everyone would just get that. Back to my report. Sorry about that. We hired the park attendant. Her name's Christina Lips. She'll be starting actually the 20th, Monday the 20th of April. We also employed Frank Smith part-time to operate the street sweeper, and that'll again free up one of our full-time employees to help us on our projects throughout the summer. We continue to get complaints on line of sight issues at the Triangle, and the Consolidated Board made a motion to have the property surveyed and Matt Himes do some research on that portion of property to actually see what's in the city, what's not in the city, and what we can do. So we're trying to address some of that. I brought up the issue of problems involved in trading spaces at the cemetery, and was asked to look at revising the cemetery rules and regulations. We'll be doing that over the next month. Pam, do you have a question?
I just wanted to say that, remember I had mentioned about trying to use lot number 3 on July the 3rd? Okay.
Yeah, that was, I haven't got there yet, but it was in here, Pam. Yeah, Pam had asked about July 3rd for an event, for the event she's got going on, fireworks. But, and the board had tabled that till next meeting. Again, that's something that take up at that time, but that would put us on a couple days behind schedule on the lot. So the other thing, we finished up or completed the hole patching. There's some small ones out there still that we got to go back and catch. But as far as the craters, we've got those taken care of. Now we will be going back and doing some strip patching here and there, and also we have some portions of overlays to do here in the near future. We removed, there was complete blockage in this river channel over here next to the Mexican restaurant. We were able to get in there and get that removed. It's quite difficult with the equipment we have, but we were able to get that done. We still have some trees in the river. We'll be addressing them throughout the summer. I know that right down here there's a couple. Right now they're not presenting any large problems, but we expect to actually get in the river. We'll wade in the river and cut those as we go whenever we get low water level. Also at the consolidated meeting, I reported there was a vehicle that ran out of the one of the roads over in the cemetery and had hit a couple of the flat markers, which we've since reset. Street department, under our report would be, we completed, of course, the concrete on Tucker, and just a note, our waste collection welder, Brad Cutright's currently fabricating a trailer, and that trailer is going to be hauling all of our mowing equipment this year. And the reason I mention that is because it plays back into how valuable our employees are. That trailer would cost somewhere in the, I just jumped online there and just seen what the actual cost of that thing would be. Just for the regular old trailer, which we would still have to do fabricating for our equipment, it's between $5,000 and $7,000. And he's worked on it this week, and with his wages and what we've got in that thing, we've got about $1,800 in that trailer. So it speaks volume to keeping those talented people in house. We've got about 50% of the underground utility work at the city park done, and we'll be working continuously through April and get our parks ready to go. We do have playground equipment to go in that park. We will be getting it in there. We kind of slacked off because we have those Easter egg hunts this weekend. So I wanted the ditches closed, and I wanted them back in or under straw before they had their Easter egg hunts. Once that's over this weekend, then next week we're going to go back into that park and really get hammering away at finishing up. And we've been operating the street sweeper, as I'm sure you're aware of, every day the weather's permitting, cleaning up, trying to get cleaned up after this long drudging winter, at least the last portion of it was. And again, those little rocks really irritate me on the sidewalks and in the gutters. That's all I have, Mayor, unless
you got a question then?
I do, Jerry. Back on the bid that you got for the cemetery, $38,000 ballpark range or something like that. Is that comparable as what it's been the last year, the year before, or is this?
Raise, what was it, Michael? What was the?
Grams.
$3,000 last year overall.
Overall?
Yeah, for the year.
Increase.
And again, we cut that, if you remember, what's it been, Dave, a couple years ago that we went to a 10-day cycle at the end of our season.
Right.
And that is, I say borderline of what we can do, because that is the time frame that we will get most of our mowing complaints, is during that 10-day cycle at the end of it. So we've cut it down from, I believe, 30 or 31 mows to 26 doing that at the end of the cycle. Again, we have looked at it and looked at it from the city doing the mowing themselves, and right now the contract is still cheaper than what it is for us to have employees and equipment to do that.
One of the long-term issues the city has, quite frankly, is the cemetery. You know, that's going to be there forever, and it's not going to be. It's not a huge revenue producer, quite frankly, and that's something that some future councils will have to address.
Yeah, well said, David. You got a good point there. Go ahead, Mary.
And Jerry, please let Lowell Smith know that I've enjoyed working with him over the years. I didn't get a chance to say happy retirement to him because he's been on vacation. But I'll send him a card at home and do that, because he has been a very, very valuable employee, and I know that for the city. And on the other thing, those trees that you're talking about removing from the river, what are you going to do with all that wood when you get it out of there? I mean, I see, you know, the reason I'm asking is because I see coming in from Weston, that big old place over there where they have all the logs piled up and stuff. Is any of that salvageable that could be hauled off, even if it's been soaked in water?
I'll tell you my experience from any tree in the city of Buchanan and talking to the mills and such. They look at you like you've got worms crawling out of your ears, because
oh, really?
Yeah, trees in town are full of metal, most generally.
Yeah.
A full what?
Metal. And
Metal?
nails.
Fixes.
Oh.
Nails.
So even X-raying, I wish Mark Waldo were here, because Mark could tell you, even X-raying those things, they miss a lot. And
wow.
Not just the safety aspect of sawing into them, but the equipment that's ruined when they hit a piece of metal in a wall.
Somebody asked me that, so I didn't know, so I thought I'd ask.
As far as what we do with the wood, you asked the question, and I
Yeah.
have to answer the question. What we do with the wood is we cut it up in small enough pieces that it will move. The biggest problem we have with water is obstruction. And I think Jay's probably going to speak a little bit more of that later. But the biggest problem we have with obstruction, that tree is so large that it can't move through under bridges and things like that. Naturally occurring wood and debris moves down the river all the time. You're essentially sending it to the next customer. Exactly. You're essentially moving to the next. No, it will find its place, settle out, and rot out.
I was going to say recycle. We're just recycling.
I only had one more.
Okay.
Where is it? Why do you want us to sweep them sidewalks so badly?
Why do I want you to?
Yeah.
To make the town look nice. We plan on.
I mean, I thought it was something to do with the rocks on it or something.
Well, you have to, yes, for one, it's a safety concern.
It's a safety issue.
But for two, my pet peeve is seeing it.
Yeah.
But all those things in the street too, and that's why we run the street sweeper. It's not just for aesthetics.
The street sweeper keeps it from going down in those drains and stuff.
And that's why we're so picky when we see people mowing grass in the street and throwing leaves out in the street and things of that nature. Stops up the storm drains, causes flooding issues.
Okay, I thought I knew that, but now I do remember that, Jerry.
Go ahead, Spam.
Well, you know, talking about trash on the sidewalks and everything was last fall, right at the corner of Main Street and Spring Street, where the little tax office is there and everything. There were
3 dirty diapers somebody just threw down there, and I went in and told the people, I said, it's your responsibility to keep the sidewalks clean, and especially when something like that. Well, they said, we're not touching that stuff, so. Anyway, what I really wanted to say was the flood we had in Jawbone Park, have you replaced all the receptacles that were underwater yet?
No, we have not.
Okay, but you will, right?
They are GFIs. And they tripped out wrong.
They'll be okay?
But they should, yes, they should be fine.
Okay, just want to make sure that when I plug my golf pot in down there for Festival Friday.
Just lick the prongs first and then stick it.
And the other question, I've done other things like that.
Don't suggest that to him.
Electric fences hurt. The other question I had was about the automobiles going into the cemetery. There was one that went in where my father-in-law's grave is over there, mother-in-law. Right there before you turn into the main part of the cemetery on the right. They're back about 50 feet there and down there. And when we were over there last weekend, there were tire prints and stuff all the way down through there. What about a guardrail? Will the state put a guardrail in there? They'll put it if you're living on places like that. Why not where our deceased friends are?
Most of our issues are from internally in the cemetery.
Well, they come inside.
On the state right away. It's off of our access roads in the cemetery. And again, I made a comment in Consolidated that didn't make the minutes, so therefore I didn't report on it, Amy Jenkins. But
thank you.
But some of the things, and going over to look at this incident, you know, some of the things that happen in that cemetery, even in the broad daylight, is right down embarrassing.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not so much the people that care that's accidentally running off the road. It's just
things haven't
people
changed
with
since
no respect.
1971.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions?
My minutes are G-rated, they're not X.
Okay. Robin, go ahead, Ms. Simons.
I've had several people contact me wanting benches and swings at the city park. Is that possible?
Working on it. I won't promise them to be the benches and swings because Pam had brought that up. Won't promise them to be there by the time the park opens because the same welder that I've charged with building this trailer, I don't want him to build the swings because we've proven that the ones at the walk trail that were wood will not last because of vandalism. So we've got to make these out of steel. So we're going to be building those in his spare time from waste collection. But trying to make something that will be in the same fashion with the swings as our Jawbone pavilions, look similar to that with the steel and the canopy, and we're painting them colors that match our playground equipment in the park. And also having those, I call them swing bench clusters, just like we did over at the walk trails. You'll have a center swing with a little canopy and then a couple benches off to the side. So yes, there's plans for that. Will it be ready by the time the park's open? I would not commit, I won't commit to that.
You do have a really excellent welder over there at the waste department, sewer.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Reese.
Was the one of the employees you talked about was a new employee, was that regarding the vandalism of the toilet paper and you know, we talked about in the fall that says there was some woman that might be interested in checking the restrooms for toilet paper that the kids were stuff in the toilets up with. Was that one of those employees that was hired? That you
Yeah, well, the park attendant. That'll be
park attendant.
Part of that will be her. And again, we're doing something different this year with the park attendant. Park attendant is in charge of going to all the parks in Buchanan.
Rotation.
And of course, limited hours. They are just a part-time seasonal employee. What we're doing this year with that park attendant is we actually have them on an 11-hour shift on the weekends. That's when our parks are the busiest. They are there, not at night. I wish we had the funds to do that too. Ball bags, park, anyhow. But we're going to have them come in on 11-hour shifts, and actually our full-time folks are going to cover just the routine daily opening the parks, taking out the trash, cleaning the restrooms, a couple days through the week on that schedule. That way we have full coverage on the weekends, and I'm hoping that helps with some of the vandalism during the weekends and in between reservations that we have where we have complaints of dirty pavilions and restrooms might be stopped up.
That's what I was asking about, thank you.
And another thing that we're looking at in the future, and someone had mentioned this once before, was the eliminating the paper for the hand towels in the restroom. So that's also something we'll look into.
The nighttime patrols, I've ridden a couple times with the officers, and everyone I've ever ridden with goes through the parks at least 2 or 3 times at night too. So that may be a little bit of a deterrent if people out there know that.
Also, one of the things at the city park, as you know, with our continued
vigilance.
Well, with our network, our computer network in the city. I talked with one of the guys there today. Our equipment's in for the city park. There's cameras. So again, I have a DVR in my office with the Crossroad cameras on it. That actually the monitor is right over my desk. And my discussion this evening was getting an app even on my phone, so I can monitor anywhere I'm at from time to time, and that'll also include those park cameras.
How's that done out the Crossroads?
Crossroads, it hits our...
I mean, I know how it's done, but how's it worked out?
It's worked out really well. Actually, Ron, there was a fellow that we all know well. Has a business here in town, and we kept getting bags of recycling stuffed into the recycling bins, and of course we asked that you take it out of the bag. It's printed on the bins. And I was actually sitting at my desk one day, and I just happened to be looking at the monitor, and I see this truck pull up. And the guy gets out, and he takes the bag up, and he stuffs it in the bin. Well, as soon as he done it, I made a phone call to business, and I said, would you tell so-and-so when he comes back to please take his recyclables out of the bag? I said, I've just observed him at Crossroad on camera. And I said, told him what he was driving and everything, and the lady said, well, you all can see everything, can't you? I said, yes, ma'am. So it does work. I mean, it does work, and it has
That's
helped.
fantastic.
And, you know, like I said, that's just one instance of it. Now, does it get everything? Absolutely not. Can we get a license plate every time? Absolutely not.
Well, put that-
In the future, are we probably going to have some higher resolution images? Probably so, but
You're having a weekend attendant could prevent something like the gentleman over there spoke about at the first of the meeting.
and they will be identified. That's one of the things. I just had magnets made for their vehicle door that identifies them as a city park attendant. They'll be wearing a bright orange T-shirt that says City of Buchanan Park Attendant on the back of it. And I instruct all of them whenever they come in. And again, they come in, she's going to be coming on in, or the 20th of April. Instruct all of them, if there's ever any problems at the park, to please call Comm Center. They don't deal with it directly, but they can get an officer there. They can get an officer there. No, we don't have radios.
Just cell phones?
Yes.
She may need a radio.
We could probably arrange that as well. Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Any other questions for Mr. Arnold? Comments? Okay, Jerry, go ahead.
Yes, we've discussed about these trees on Main Street. Whenever we get to take them out, I'd be glad to help. Also, I have a suggestion that we take those trees, if possible, down and put them in Jawbone Park. We reuse them.
Yeah, we're going to try, Jerry. I got an email from Mel today, and that's one of the things we're going to try. But the way we have to take them out, we'll have to strap them and take them out to try to save the planters.
One that initiated that.
Yeah. The planters are. It would be more detrimental to destroy a planter than it would be a tree. It's just the nature.
And I know they can do it. They might not even grow down there.
Right, and that's one thing. Robbie Barber. We were actually going to come in one night, Robbie and I, and remove the trees, and that's what we were going to do. Robbie was going to, we were going to plant them if they made it. Okay, if not, then we just had them pull out at Jawbone or wherever.
But I would be glad to help any way that I can to get the speaker system going.
Still working on it.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Okay.
All right.
We have Mr. Holland, city engineer up.
No, just stay and read bonds.
You've done such a great job. On the 3 pages right after the city's fire truck for sale ad is my report. But for Jody's benefit, I was just going to say that most of that is just for informational purposes, and I'm going to hit the highlights that have happened since last month. So it's not really 3 whole pages, probably about 1. On the generator grants, I reported, last month that we received them. We were approved. It's not going to cost the city anything to get those generators, but we've yet to receive our notice to proceed. I was hoping to have it by this time so I could get working on that, because that would really help the water department with a couple summer projects. But we haven't received the notice to proceed yet, so we're on hold. Chapman Technical Group's made no progress on the water treatment plant improvement projects, the final drawings. We're just waiting to see how this water tariff that we're looking at may shake out. So we're kind of in a holding pattern. On the Lumos fiber optic installation at Jawbone, still working with Lumos to review and resolve an issue regarding their layout that occurs in front of the former Rob's Fitness Center. Jerry and I have made numerous visits down there, and we cannot verify that Lumos's proposed route is on city property rather than private property, and we can't authorize them to do any work on private property. And we've mentioned this numerous times in conversations, and I believe the mayor was involved with one of them, and we just need them to verify whether the project's on private or public property, and we can proceed. Jerry touched on everything that I wanted to talk about on the McDonald's Route 20 lane widening project, except just want to throw back out there that advertising in May and construction after the Strawberry Festival beginning in June. Continuing to work on the water storage tank specifications and drawings, along with numerous other little projects that pop up from time to time, and hope to have a water tank design finished before the end of the year. Now for the first of the large discussions. This is new. This is the Atlantic Coast Pipeline Project. I'm working on a letter to send to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regarding the ACP project. But before I go any further, I want to preface that this letter is in no way in support of or in opposition to the ACP pipeline. It's just that I have some concerns about their proposed river and stream crossings that I am looking for answers to, and I have yet to get those answers. I have talked to them, left messages, made phone calls and emails at least 10 different times since December 1st of 2014, and have yet to hear back from them so that we can address my concerns. And with the spill bill, the requirements, what happened in Charleston, these 2 stream crossings just happen to be in our zone of critical concern, and that raises up a lot of red flags at the health department and the DEP. And the reason I bring this up, as you may or may not know, the Buchanan River is the only source of raw water in Buchanan. And what that does, the Buchanan River supplies the city of Buchanan with enough water to meet the daily demands of 93% of this county. And I'm just looking to protect that resource, and I want to ensure that their river and stream crossings are not only in the city's best interest, but everybody's in this room, because we all have water. Again, it's not intended to be in support of the project or in opposition. It's just a fact-finding letter, and I've yet to receive anything from them, so I'm looking for maybe the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to support us on that. And what I'd like to do, and I spoke with our attorney earlier today, I'd like to have this letter and attachments ready to present you all at the next meeting so that you all can review it, ask any questions before we send it out, just to keep everything on the up and up and transparent, because this letter has to be submitted to FERC by April 28th. So that's where we are on that.
Jay, have other colleagues of yours experienced the same?
Well, Dave, I didn't have time to look through all 1,400 letters that's been submitted to FERC on this particular project. Lots of them are for, against, and some are fact-finding letters. Right. But I haven't come across any, on the engineering side or river crossing side. There's a lot of strong opposition against it, this particular project. That seems to be the majority. But I've yet to find one of those 1,400, and it grows daily. This is public record, and everything that's submitted becomes part of the public record. So that's why I want to be up front and mention this to you all, so that when the time comes to submit it, what's going to go out there will become public record. And not that I'm worried about anything that's in that letter, but it's just one of 1,400 and growing right now, Dave.
Have you sent copies to anybody in the legislature?
Well, the third letter of submission on this particular project was from Senator Capito in her support of. Lots of the governor of Virginia and all their legislators are in support of it. But I've not sent this out. I plan on sending it to the county commission, the health department, you know, just showing them so that they can see my concerns to protect our source water and go from there.
And you'll show us the final draft?
Yes, the final draft hopefully in 2 weeks. You know, well, indefinitely in 2 weeks, so that I can, you know, get your all's blessings or incorporate any changes that you or Mr. McCauley may have, and then get that off to FERC. Source water protection plan, Mary, if I mention anything wrong, please correct me. Tom and I are still working on the draft copy. This is a work in progress because it incorporates items and issues that were discussed from our public meetings. The plan's due no later than July 1, 2016. We had our second of 4 public meetings on March 16th here at City Hall. I thought that it went very well. We had much, you know, a lot of, not much, much more public involvement this time. I was glad to see that. I can't speak for Mary. Still like to see more because, again, it kind of ties into this Atlantic Coast pipeline. We only have the one source of water, and there's a lot of legislation and requirements and testing and all this stuff, and it just results in a lot of necessary or unnecessary, depending on what side you look at it from, manpower hours, equipment, new equipment that's going to be required, just a lot of stuff, and just wanted to report on that. And the next meeting is scheduled for the second or third week of June. However, at the March 16th meeting, there is lots of interest to start having these meetings monthly to better accommodate some of the public and to have more opportunity to ask questions and address this. Tom and I are not opposed to that, but we just haven't sat down and discussed, you know, if that's what we want to do. We need to get with Michael and see if we want to have monthly meetings. We're only required to have quarterly meetings, but, you know, the more information that can get out there about these projects, I believe that's only to the benefit of our source water protection plan that we must submit to the state in 2016. The Army Corps Flood Control Project update. We had a on-site meeting here at City Hall last Friday at 10 a.m. with city personnel, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the West Virginia DNR. I'm not going to go into the entire 2-hour meeting. I'm just going to hit the highlights of that because I'm still waiting the Army Corps' official response. But the Army Corps they started off the meeting and that they are still reviewing their guidance for vegetation removal and this is long and convoluted, for channel improvement projects. And what that means is, as I reported to you, that you know, our last letter was minimally acceptable. Our last on-site review and inspection was minimally acceptable, and if we didn't do anything about the vegetation removal, we're going to be determined to be unacceptable, and you know, there were some consequences with that, and we had to come up with a plan. Well, they're reviewing their vegetation removal guidelines. I think departments within the Corps are talking to each other because their environmental section believed that complete vegetation removal is not good for the river system nor the habitat, and I think that's what the DNR and the city felt as part of our argument of complete vegetation removal. So they're reviewing that. So until that policy has been reviewed and approved, the Army Corps made the following suggestions that the city must take, you know, soon and ongoing. We don't need to let the vegetation problem get any worse. You know, if we see some issues that need to be addressed, like I'm going to get into, let's address those at that time. Let's not wait for 2 years to go by. We need to address the vegetation areas near the bridge and the bridge abutments, because what can happen there is vegetation, dead trees, limbs, they can be caught up and intertwine with each other, creating dams, like what was discussed with Mr. Hall earlier when we were talking. Backs up the water, backs up more debris, it just aggravates the problem. So any vegetation 100 feet upstream and downstream of these abutments that are caught on the abutments need to be removed. Don't let the vegetation get any higher than 8 to 12 inches. Remove all debris, tires, you know, we've seen truck axles, we've seen barrels, trash barrels, not chemical barrels or anything like that, just burn barrels. Any debris needs to be removed from the riverbed. Any dead vegetation and trees need to be removed from the riverbed. Any dead trees and vegetation along the banks of the river needs to be removed. And if we see any leaning trees, we need to mark those. monitor them, and then if they look like they're going to tear the root ball out as they continue to lean over into the river, cut those off, because the Corps wants the tree stumps at this time to remain to help hold back the banks. And the one thing that I was glad to hear from them, because I'm reporting to you that if we were rated unacceptable, there was the potential that we would lose federal reimbursement money in case of a disaster. They clarified that policy in that we would only lose any monies that would be needed to repair the channelization improvement project, or the 4.5 miles of that stretch of the river. We would not lose any FEMA funding, any natural disaster reimbursement funding. That wouldn't be held against us. You know, the only money that we could be ineligible to lose would be for the channelization improvement project. So that was good news, because that wasn't indicated the first time around. So we got a clarification on that. We're scheduled for our next inspection this month or in May, and these 7 steps are to be continually, in a continual basis. It's not a one-time clear up any dead trees that you find now and forget about it. It will be a continual basis. They don't expect them to all be removed at once. They understand that this is an ongoing project, but they have identified the areas that need addressed, and that's what they're going to be looking for and at during these inspections. So, Sam and I and Jerry will have to come on board with us, maybe 2 trips down the river a year and just identify some of this stuff, and as the schedule permits, pull them out. But I mean, I thought it was a really good meeting. It's much better than, it was definitely, the way I presented it to you was, oh no, we're in trouble. But, we've all reached a happy median, and I thought it was a very productive meeting, and we're on the right track. I believe so. Gateway West Transportation Improvement Project, I just put that on there. I checked today before I typed up these minutes. The project has been moved to eligible for funding, but they haven't determined which projects they're going to fund yet. So the project could or could not go. They've deemed it financially eligible, but just don't have any more news to report on that. Jody, I'm finished. Any questions?
Okay, Mary got the first one yet.
It's my night to ask questions, and I agree, that was a really good open meeting that we had here at Townsville.
Source water protection.
Yes, source water protection. And Jay, you said something, and you said it kind of fast, but I want you to say it again. What is our main source of water for the city and Upshur County residents that use city water?
For not only the city water, not just Buchanan, but for 93% of Upshur County, the Buchanan River.
The Buchanan River. So when we talk about these
protecting assets.
Yes, we're protecting assets, because one thing can we not live without?
Air.
And what's another one? Water. Anyways, being assigned to or volunteering, working with the water department has been one of the most educational things I have been assigned with on city council. And Jay, and I know you got your hands full, but you really do a great job, little Jay.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, it's been busy. It has been. Lots of projects.
Good job.
Any other questions for Mr.
I got a comment. Jay, would it be, you got 9 miles that you have to deal with over the next 5-10 years, you're saying?
Yeah.
Would it be in the best interest of the city and the county to go out and hire some part-time people that would just be dedicated to doing that?
We have talked about that. I mean, there's so many things that you must provide, restroom facilities, the proper gear, all new equipment, Jerry and I just haven't had the chance to sit down, take that tour of the river and see, just how big these trees are. I expect a couple 2 foot in diameter and smaller, but some of these over in the bypass, as Pam referred to, I mean, they're huge, and you can cut them up. I don't know how you're going to get them out. And we've got to go back. That was one of the questions that the Corps asked as part of this program that the city took ownership of in the late 60s. We were supposed to secure the right-of-ways so that we could go in there and maintain this project. I don't know if those were ever done, so I'm going to get with Mr. McCauley and Matt Himes. This only happened last Friday, and see if those agreements were ever signed and executed between the city and the property owners, because that was one of the conditions that we made, and that's that bench I kept referring to previously. That bench was the access to this project. It went all the way down the 4.5 miles of the left bank, and that would allow us to either get into the river and then get across to the other side. You know, that was the means of traversing the 4.5 miles, you know, of the project. I'm looking more like a 5 to 10 year project, and that's just to get the big stuff out of the way. Yeah. And then I think after that, once we get that knocked out, you know, and this is ongoing, it's perpetual, then it won't be nearly as labor intensive as what we're thinking, you know, to start out with, because, you know, their first thing was, you're taking everything. Wow, that was going to be intensive.
But you're going to have budget implications for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, you know, Michael and I haven't had a chance to talk. We actually have a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday, I believe, at 9, Michael, to Jerry, Sam, and I, and Tim, and Bradley, to discuss this particular project. Somewhere 20, 30 a year, you know, and towards the tail end, maybe it doesn't require that much. You know, it's going to be maybe loaded up front, but just don't know. You know, I'm kind of waiting for the tour, you know, the on-site inspections, to see what their major concerns are. But then yet again, they've given us direction. It's time to go start clearing some of that debris and stuff away from the abutments to show them that we are making, you know, headway. But Jerry is swamped. The street department is just covered up right now. I didn't even touch on North Buchanan Park, because as soon as that notice to proceed is given, you know, we're going to be purchasing playground equipment. Jerry's got to start, you know, allotting times to do those particular projects. But
do the property owners have any responsibility at all?
No, no.
So it's all based
it's all on the cities. But I mean, we've looked at that, Dave. I mean, we've thought about, you know, contacting the correctional departments and, you know, contacting the guard. The guard doesn't want any involvement in it, as I've reported earlier. Michael and the mayor went to Washington and explained the situation, and I believe we heard back from Mrs. Capito's representative that the guard is not an option, you know, so we're out there, you know.
I will mention to council as well that while we're looking at the plan for the flood protection project, we're also looking at how we could do it at the same time, plan for future use of the river along that way. So we're going to be integrating two things at once, not only just doing the cleaning, but what else can we do in the future to use that piece of the river that we're now cleaning, keep it easier to maintain, but also have access for citizens to use more there. So there's also going to be grant opportunities along that lines if we go that way, like a walking trail, bicycle trail. So those are other funding options we may have with that. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Holland? Yes.
I just want most of this is going to be out of city limits, right?
It all is.
Okay.
But the city in 1968 or 69 agreed to take ownership of the entire project.
So county isn't going to have to have it?
Probably not. We could approach them because, again, it's supplying water to, you know. But right now, it's a city project. We agreed to that. Unintended consequences.
Is there water?
All right, any other questions or comments from Mr. Holland? Thank you, Jay, very much for your work. We appreciate that. Your fan club awaits. Mr. McCauley, sir, city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I did not do that 1968 agreement. I get blamed for a lot of things, but I didn't do that one, by golly. Several updates. The Deer Creek deed from the LaRosas has been executed. And I'll explain more about the next step in this process at the next meeting. We're trying to get a raised seal plat from Dale Bennett, who did our survey last summer, so that can be recorded. But before it's recorded, there has to be a resolution of acceptance of the deed we'll want to get. So I'll have that ready for you next time. But the deed was just executed the last day or two. Cemetery contract with Sam Ross's enterprise has been prepared, and Mr. Ross is scheduled to come in Monday morning, which is the first day that he can actually start cutting the grass in the cemetery. He'll be here to sign that. The specs on the bids, the bid specs requires him to produce his certificates of insurance and workers' comp coverage if appropriate. So those are coming too. Michael Doss got an update from the Municipal League just yesterday concerning the home rule stuff. And we're trying to get clarification as to how quickly we can proceed, but the governor has signed that, that bill that the legislature passed, which will allow us to short circuit the ordinance process. Now, one of the things we may have to do is, if this new stuff doesn't go into effect until, say, June 1 or July 1, is delay the effectuation date of the home rule ordinances. But I think as early as that first meeting in May, we're going to try to have all 4 of those ordinances ready to go, boom, 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 4 booms for council. So a lot of cutting and pasting from the home rule proposal to get it into ordinance form, but it's coming. CSX Sanitary Board deed. We just got the final details we think worked out relative to the survey that was being done on that property, and hopefully by about the 1st of May it'll be a done deal. We'll be waiting on the legal department of the railroad to provide us with a deed. I have in your packet tonight, actually it's not part of the packet, but you got a copy of it. This is a more than rough, less than final draft of the TV cable franchise agreement. I would say that 80 to 90% of this agreement, the terms are virtually identical to what we did 5 years ago with the last agreement, 5.5 years ago. This would be Ordinance 390 unless something else bumps it. I would encourage the council to familiarize yourself with the provisions of this between now and next time. I'll be happy to answer questions at that juncture. I think it's a tad premature to do that tonight. Some of the things that we're looking toward, there are going to be some services added to the expanded basic package in the first 2 years of this 7-year franchise. We're hopeful that Suddenlink is in the process of renegotiating some things with Viacom, and some of those 6-8 services that we lost a few months ago might be returning. People ask me about that all the time. This is a 7-year franchise agreement. All of the franchise agreements for the 20+ years preceding this 5-year one that expired in December that we gave a 6-month extension to were for 7 years, except this preceding 5-year one. The reason we went to 5 years, when Mr. Kellerman was calling the shots with Suddenlink, he assured us that the state of West Virginia was on the cusp of taking franchising authority away from municipalities, and that we wouldn't even get 5 years out of this. Well, Mr. Brown says that's no longer the case, that nobody in Charleston is looking anymore at state usurpation of local municipal rights. So we're going to do a 7-year deal that would take us all the way up into June 30 of 2022. So please take a peek at this and become a little bit familiar so we can talk about it next time. You still have before you, and I've not been given any recent instruction, the board member attendance ordinance. Please give me some direction. It's one of those lingering things. I'm down to 88 days to go, not like I'm counting down the days, and I'd like to get as much of this stuff finished up before July 1 as possible.
If you don't mind, Dave, before you move on from there, I want to let council know that because of the turnaround in some of our boards, for instance, today, starting with the First Waste Board, we reintroduced the ordinance about board member participation or attendance. It would be my suggestion then, as we go through these boards again one more time, it's already been introduced once, but now with the new members, we want to make sure that everybody understands the ramifications of it, or the processes that we have to deal with if there is no attendance for those boards. So, Mr. McCauley, I'd ask for your patience to the end of this month, and then the council, I will ask at that point, either you decide to table it forever, or we go ahead and proceed with that ordinance, all right? Thank you, Mr. Cawley. Go ahead.
The last thing I have is a bit troubling, and I certainly relate to some of the council members that I've spoken with about this problem's frustration. And I think there is at least one way, if not more than one way, of resolution to this problem. But the issue with the triangle, with the site obstruction, we have to, I think, as a governmental body, find a way to cure that. Somebody is going to get whacked down there. I mean, it's whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're in your car, you can't see around those vehicles the way they're parked down there. In all of the years that my old pal, Neil Thacker, operated a filling station down there, we never had the issues that we've got now. I don't know the folks that run this place, but my observation is that after intervention by our zoning officer and our police chief requesting them to work with us, I don't see any indication at all anybody's working with us. I think it gets worse as time goes on. And I think we could do an ordinance, whether it's part of our zoning ordinance or whether it is just under our general police powers, to make it very clear that site triangles have to be kept clear of obstructions. Yeah. And I'd really like the council to think about that between now and the next time, and maybe by the meeting on the 16th, say let's have a meeting, let's get this fixed. Somebody's going to get clobbered.
I think we should ask them to come to a council meeting.
Well, and just to add on to that, I did get all the contact information for all the stakeholders in that area surrounding that piece of property. I intend next week, and if you will with me, Mr. Thomas, attend a meeting of those stakeholders from the city's perspective. And what I'm talking about is the AutoZone, the Wendy's folks, the bank folks, the Triangle folks, everybody that has any piece around there, come together, sit at the table, see if we can figure something out. If not, by our next council meeting, if there can't be any resolution, then I would proceed, and I think Consolidated came up with the same idea, to look at the DOH either with the survey, figuring out how we can extend that so the line of sight is more or better than it is now, or if it all the way has to go down to some sort of a legal ordinance stating fines and whatnot, or consequences for non-action.
It needs to be on a fast pace, because it's been a problem for a long time.
It's been a
So I'll get with you, Dave, on that for next week as well.
Make a comment.
Yeah, it's gonna be time. Yeah, yes, sir.
I had, on this very subject, today after lunch, somebody was talking to me, and they had made a suggestion, and I promised them that I would tell you, and I forgot, but they said, why not just make that Kanawha Street one-way come at the triangle coming into town, and you've got the other coming around Locust Street to get out of it back that way. They said that would take away the remedy the situation of the site coming there if you just made it a one-way street going down into town. But I've told you, and there you go, guys.
That is, and it's been discussed. I think all of the options have been discussed and consolidated. Everybody's thought about every which way we can do it. At this point, the only thing we can do is try to get everybody together, do one last attempt at that way. If not, then we are looking at, there's an issue with going one way, particularly if you're a business owner there. So if you turn it to one way, it kind of makes it a lot harder for people to get to perhaps to your location for your store, which arises other problems. So let's see if we can get everybody together at that. If not, then we're gonna have to take a stand as a city on this case and try to resolve it that way. But thank you for bringing that up. You can tell your constituent, you mentioned that to all
I
the
think he
council.
knows. Oh, he will. Anything else? Mr. McCauley, sorry to interrupt.
I think that's all I have, unless you all have questions for me. Working on several other things that we'll talk about next time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Any questions for Mr. McCauley on that? Very good. Please read through your Suddenlink stuff so we can get that done as well at our next meeting. Under correspondence, you have the proclamation. It's Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service. We will be having that here on April 7th at 12:30. Everybody's invited to that. It's for Vistas, Volunteers of Service to America. It's also for any of the other, what's the other volunteer? AmeriCorps. All of the programs that are here, there's a foster grandparent program, there's the senior citizen program, there's a Stockard Youth Center program. They will all be in here that day. I would love to have a member of council here, all of the council here, to show our support to our volunteers. We talk about a lack of volunteers. In this case, there are volunteers.
What day is that?
At 12:30 on April 7th.
12:30, April 7th.
And it'll be right here in council.
It's on a Tuesday.
That is a Tuesday. All right, having said that, I'd appreciate you reading through that to show all the different things when you get your time. That's under correspondence. Under our consent agenda, we have the approval of the minutes from the March 19th regular council meeting. We have the approval of the building and wiring permits and approval of payment of the bills. Is there anything that you would like to take off that consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion on any of that in there?
Question.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. All right, now we have our strategic issues for discussion and vote. It's important that we set a time to lay the levy for the 2015-2016 general fund. Date is to be April 22nd. I do have to have a quorum that day, so please, council.
I thought you said April 21st.
April 21st.
Did I not say 21st? April 21st, 2015. I need a time that we can all be here.
Council, in the past, we've usually met about like 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a 5-minute meeting, but by law, we have to do it.
I can be here.
10 a.m.?
We just need a quorum for that.
I'll be out of town the 21st as of now.
I'll be.
What day is that, on a Tuesday?
It's on a Tuesday, yes.
I only need 4 of us,
Yeah, we just need a
so that's fine.
Can
Okay.
you do it telephonically also?
Sure.
Yeah,
Actually.
that's fine.
So that's 10 a.m. on April 21st. Everybody got April 21st. Everybody got that on your calendars? Excellent. We have approval of Officer Nick Kaner to the promotion of corporal with the Buchanan Police Department. I would entertain a motion to approve. He has
so
both
moved.
tests for Officer Nick Kaner to corporal. I have a motion from Mr. Pugh. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Mrs. Kupari. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, Officer Kaner. We have the letter of resignation from the Police Civil Service Board from Robert Osborne. He was a chamber appointment. In order to do so, he is now on the waste board, so he had to give up the civil service. We will now be asking the Chamber of Commerce at their next meeting to please appoint somebody in his position, in his replacement in his position.
I'll be attending that meeting. Do you want me to ask them to put it on their agenda and?
I think Teresa's already
Teresa's
done
already
that,
done
but if they forget, it would be awesome if you
Okay.
might remind them.
Okay.
We have appointment of Robin Keogh to the Buchanan Animal Care and Control Commission. Robin's not with us tonight, but she is my appointment from the county. She has no voting, but she has been very instrumental in helping us draft Ordinance 300, which you'll be soon seeing or getting a presentation of. So I'd entertain a motion to appoint Robin Keogh.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We have the schedule of council interviews for firefighter candidates. And I don't even know where you want to start on that.
Taking up all of
We
our-
need to choose a
We need to
day.
do it very, well, you heard what the chief said though earlier.
Yeah.
We can hold off on that, but I do need to let our candidates know a rough idea.
I really think we should interview them just as soon as possible.
I do too.
For their convenience?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Well, we
All
got the
right.
workshop session on the 9th at 5, okay? We don't want to do it then. We could do it on the,
6:30. Why couldn't we be done and do it at 6:30, starting at 6:30?
We might well. We could
yeah.
do that.
Hey, Michael, how long will it take us to do that workshop session? That's hard to say.
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half?
Yeah,
You want to do it all in one night then?
Yeah, let's do it all one night, wipe it out.
All right, I'm with you.
Shoot, yes.
There you have it. Amber, did you get the time?
How many candidates are you interviewing?
There's 2 candidates.
So 45 minutes.
So you'll be out here
Yeah.
at 7.
Well, you need to see if that's convenient for them.
Yeah.
Amy
Yes.
said she'd cook for us.
All right, I will get a letter out to our candidates for that. Thank you very much.
Interviews.
Then we have first reading of the hotel motel tax ordinance 389. Mr. McCauley?
Mr. Edwards, this would be the first of 2 required readings under the West Virginia State Code. I'll read it by caption and quickly through the whereases and just highlight the information in the several articles. This would be ordinance number 389 of the City of Buchanan. An ordinance 1, amending the distribution formula whereby the city shall, upon the effectuation of this ordinance, retain 30% of all hotel motel occupancy taxes collected by the city to be expended by the city for those restricted purposes as are set forth pursuant to Chapter 8, Article 18, Section 14C of the West Virginia Code as amended. And 2, funding the Upshur County Convention and Visitors Bureau Corporation, a nonprofit West Virginia corporation, with 70% of all hotel motel occupancy taxes collected by the city to be distributed by the city to the said Upshur County Convention and Visitors Bureau Corporation pursuant to Chapter 7, Article 18, Section 14B1 of the West Virginia Code as amended. And 3, amending ordinances number 235, 324, and 354 of the City of Buchanan. And finally, 4, establishing an effective date of ordinance, that is July 1, 2015. Whereas the Council of the City of Buchanan previously adopted ordinance number 235 on February 6, 1986, imposing a 3% tax upon the use and occupancy of all hotel and motel rooms situated within the City of Buchanan, as authorized pursuant to state statute, said tax hereinafter referred to as the hotel motel tax, and specifically allocating half of the hotel motel tax thereby collected to the Buchanan Convention and Visitors Bureau, Inc., a nonprofit West Virginia corporation hereinafter referred to as Buchanan CVB, and whereas the state legislature thereafter amended the tax authorizing statute to permit municipalities to increase their hotel motel occupancy tax from 3% to 6% beginning July 1, 2005, and whereas the council thereafter amended ordinance number 235 pursuant to ordinance number 324 on April 20th, 2006 to effectuate the hotel motel tax increase and to specifically dedicate and restrict all of the additional 3% in said tax revenues collected to the establishment, operation, and staffing of the Buchanan CVB exclusively. And whereas the Upshur County Convention and Visitors Bureau, a nonprofit West Virginia corporation, hereinafter referred to as the Upshur County CVB, was issued its certificate of incorporation by the West Virginia Secretary of State's office on June 4, 2010, and whereas the Upshur County CVB, as the then second duly incorporated Convention and Visitors Bureau to be located within the City of Buchanan, formally requested hotel motel tax funding from the city during 2010, and whereas the City Council, pursuant to ordinance number 354, formally defunded the previously funded Buchanan CVB and funded the Upshur County CVB, but via a new distribution formula whereby the Upshur County CVB received 60% funding and the City of Buchanan retained 40% restricted funding. And whereas during a special rescheduled City Council meeting conducted on March 13, 2015, the Council moved to again amend the hotel motel tax distribution formula from 60% CVB funding and 40% restricted city funding to 70% CVB funding and 30% restricted city funding. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the Council of the City of Buchanan as follows. The findings, Article 1, generally track the whereas paragraphs that I just read to you. However, I do have listed the 7 specific areas of expenditure, things can be expended on relative to the hotel motel tax. After that, the next article is the filing of the annual report, which is essentially lifted right out of the state statute. Article 3 specifically amends the 3 previous CVB ordinances that we have adopted going all the way back to 1986. And the effective date of this ordinance, because this is something that you previously have relied upon as part of your 2014-2015 municipal budget, you're counting on that 60-40 formula to continue through June 30th. As you heard Mr. Doss tell you during your last council meeting, he's already, with the proposal that you're looking at for the 2015-26 budget, he's counting on you passing this. He's redistributed that in a 70-30 kind of a way. That would start on July 1 of 2015. It's my recommendation that during this evening that you approve on the first of 2 readings, ordinance 389 of the City of Buchanan.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. I would entertain a motion to approve the first of 2 readings of ordinance 389.
So move.
I have a motion by Mr. Thomas.
Second.
I have a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. McCauley, on that.
One other reminder about this, if I may, Mr. Edwards.
Go ahead, sir.
This ordinance, because it has to do with a municipal tax, will require a legal advertisement at least 5 days before the date at which this proposal would come before final reading before the council. So next week early, I'll get with our folks at the newspaper and get that legal notice ready. And it also will require, as you prepare your agenda for the next meeting, a public hearing, so that anyone who wants to be heard on it may so be heard.
Thank you, sir.
And that's something that we have before our regular council meeting?
Yes, that's the time of weather for it. So we would make sure that all the citizens are aware. If they have anything they would like to discuss on that, that would be their time to do so. Mr. McCauley, thank you very much. Is there anything else, sir? We appreciate all your hard work. It's down to our comments and announcements, favorite time of the night, and I'm going to start way to my left this time with Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas, sir, any comments or announcements?
Well, the only comment I have, I guess, would be that if you go back and listen to everything involving the meeting tonight, we would save the citizens a lot of money, both the city and the county, if people would simply be more considerate, not so careless. You know, whether it's throwing your trash out or throwing things in the river, or when you're driving your car, or breaking the law. You know, we just need to be more thoughtful with our daily routines. I just would challenge everybody to think about that and have a safe weekend and observe Easter if you so want to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Well said. Mrs. Kapari.
I want to ask Mr. McCauley if he got a chance to look at the contract for the 4th of July fireworks.
I found a couple of things that I want to get some clarification on. I started on that last week, and then I just basically got whacked this week in so many ways. But let me meet with you to express those concerns. But yeah, I think it's something we can get worked out.
Okay. And just want to wish everybody a happy Easter weekend. Have a great time with your family, and if you travel, be very safe.
Thank you, Mrs. Kapari. Mr. Pugh.
Yes, I'd like to also wish everybody a blessed Easter, and let's not forget that He is risen. And the reason for this season that our Lord came and died for us and was risen for us. Mr. McCauley, do you read to your students in class?
No, I'm too busy telling good jokes.
Okay. I was just wondering why they all went to sleep, so. Good job, David.
They don't fall asleep in class.
I would blame Jerry Arnold tonight for that, actually. It's the longest one that I've heard him in quite so long.
I was trying to keep it short. I mean, geez.
He was trying to.
I'm taking this away from here. This is all Bob.
This has been a very good meeting, and we got a lot of business accomplished, and I like that. If we got to come here and sit, we might as well take care of some good business. Thank you, Mr. Dawes, for what you do, Mr. McCauley, and Mr. Holland, and to Mayor, and all the members of council, and I wish everybody a very peaceful and safe holiday weekend at Easter time. Remember the purpose of that holiday. And we got some work coming up, and we really need to do our homework before we come in to make these meetings a little quicker.
Very well.
Thank you.
Very good. Mrs. Simons.
I would like to say I'm proud of the work that we've accomplished since I've been on the board. It's a great group of people I'm working with, and we can talk just about anything now. And I'd like to wish everyone a wonderful Easter, and hope you spend time with your families and enjoy it.
Thank you, Mrs. Simons. I want to echo everything everybody's already said. It's a fantastic meeting. It's always great to have all you folks with us. And I want to thank you for being here, taking time out of your busy schedules to hear what your city's up to. If you got any questions, you got any comments, we got a website. You can get in touch with any one of us as we're walking out. We're here for you. I would invite more people to come to our next meeting of the City Council. We'd love to have you there as well, because we have a public hearing and we've got a lot of other business going on. So, having said that, I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There's sleep down the other end.
We are adjourned, folks. Thank you very much. Have a good night.